Just fine. I'm going to try to make this as quickly as possible. I'm ashamed to admit that I fell for an April Fool's joke from James Randi. The name of the video is Seth Raphael Claims Randi's $1 Million Challenge. I was wondering if James Randi's intentions were to use this as a teaching tool, because if you observe the opening of the video, you have all the elements of legitimacy. The presenter is standing behind a podium that reads MIT Media Lab. Also, you have the very well-respected skeptic James Randi. Mm-hmm. This was so present in my mind that I completely missed the funny hat the lady was wearing. Also, during the presentation, Randi places this goofy contraption on Seth Raphael. And this is the kind of tactics used by promoters of the paranormal. You have a ghost hunter who studied at this or that university and has a PhD in something. Am I reading more into this, or is Randi just having a good joke? Do you think that he had an intention for this, or...
So I can tell you what I can do, because Randi and I did an event in Vancouver, and there's talk that we might do another event this coming year in Ottawa. We can perhaps talk about the April Fool's joke. We are not, I mean, we've done events together, and we know each other, but we're not close friends. But I can say with pretty strong confidence that it was absolutely intended as a teaching episode, but, you know, also a bit of fun, April Fool's fun and everything. Yeah, right. But everything he does in the realm of skepticism is about teaching. And don't feel bad because you got fooled. It's probably easier for him to fool you than almost anybody else, both as a magician and a skeptic, because you come in with some level of trust. And that's the lesson to take away, is that just because Randi says that he's become convinced of something, that on its own is not enough. You know, we need to know what the actual evidence is, and anybody can be fooled. And the second you think you can't be fooled, it's too late. And my favorite...
Do you know how he did that trick at the end of that show that you did in Canada? You do know how that was yeah. Can I get to my second... I want to quickly get onto this, because this is my main topic.
Okay.
It's about debating. I've watched your debates with Matt Slick, and this is a name I wonder if it's really real, because he seems to slide away from difficult questions. And I'm frustrated with how he plays these logic games. It seems like he does this to divert questions about scientific weaknesses in the Bible. And I want to scream when I hear him say, "I love science." Now, I don't possess your debating skills and will probably never debate someone of his caliber. But after watching...
Oh, you could debate 100 people of Matt Slick's caliber.
Okay, well, let me go on. But after watching these debates, I was wondering if I could, as a disarming technique, agree to my definition of a God. Just as Tom Sawyer exists in the minds of readers of Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer never really walked the face of the earth, but exists in the mind of the readers of Mark Twain. I could say something like, okay, here's my God, the God I give the name No God. This God only exists in my mind and doesn't have any supernatural qualities. Thereby, I'd be able to debate the supernatural God. What are the pitfalls of this kind of strategy? That is, I want to get people away from arguing God and say, your supernatural God is what I'm really wanting to debate. And he seems to try to avoid, because when you want to go after the Bible and the inaccuracies in the science in the Bible, he starts playing these games about what is reality. You assume reality. Do you find any pitfalls in like what I'm calling a disarming technique?
Yes, loads of them. Number one, you debate whatever God they're presented. They get to define the God that they are defending, and you have to address it that way. Also, when you call your God the no God, you've set up a contradiction. And when you say that it only exists in the minds, now you have a different ontology than the God that they're talking about. So if I tell you that I believe that pixies pull socks out of the dryer so that I constantly end up with mismatched pairs, and you then try to argue against that by arguing against something completely different, well, now we're not discussing what my belief is. You have no way to show that I'm either wrong or unreasonable unless you actually address what it is that I'm claiming. So you have to play their game, for lack of a better word. I don't find it to be a game. And he's not playing tricks with logic and reality. He is following a particular line of reasoning, which is flawed, which I think we've kind of shown is flawed. But you have to actually deal with what's presented. If a caller calls up and says to me, you know, if my conversation with John, if John had claimed that, you know, he's a Christian, but he worships Satan, well, I've got to try to find a way to make sense of that to show what's potentially wrong with it. I don't get to say, oh, well, I'm going to argue against a Satan that only lives in my underwear drawer.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't get anywhere that way. And if the goal, you got to think about what the goals are in debates and discussions. Is it to try and make the world more reasonable and encourage people to give up beliefs that they don't have good reason for? Or is it about mocking or showing that you're right? I am fine with mockery and ridicule where it's deserved, but in a debate on a topic, you know, I've had opponents show up to debate one topic and then completely change it. And despite the fact that they want to now talk about something we didn't agree, you know, we were supposed to debate whether or not God exists, and that turned into a debate about morality. The best I can do is comment that, well, we were here to discuss God, but if you want to go down this road of morality, I will at least address what you're saying. Then you win twice. You win twice because they tried to, you know, pull a slick move to get you into some other area, and you demolished that area too.
Do you think you could ever arrange for a debate with Matt Slick where you'd say, we're just going to debate the Bible? Could you do that?
Well, Matt contacted me because he was going to be in Austin in May, and I suggested that while he was here, he should come over to the house. We'll have some tequila, we'll set up a camera, sit down in a couple chairs, and have a conversation, not a debate, a conversation about what he believes, what I believe, you know, because I think those are often more productive than debates. Unfortunately, I don't know if he just didn't come to Austin or if he decided against it or whatever else, which is a shame because we both like tequila, and I had the best bottle of tequila there ready for us. But I haven't heard back from him, and frankly, I've got enough stuff going on that I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Final thing, that caller earlier was talking about these, you know, that he saw these ghosts or whatever. I like to, this is another technique that you might find a weakness in, but I like to tell people I find it better to choose to not believe this or to choose to believe this because, for example...
You can't choose what you believe.
Huh?
You can't choose what you believe.
Okay, well, for example, if somebody said, let's say we had murders in our city and then they couldn't find the murderers, from a mental health standpoint, I'm looking for a natural explanation, which I find more mentally helpful than to say, oh, since we can't find this murderer, then it's demonic. That is, I choose to hope for a natural explanation for these things that don't have currently have an answer. I find that psychologically, mentally more appealing to me than to assume that it's something paranormal.
Oh, well,
what do you think about that philosophy?
Well, okay, so there was a bit of confusion in there because you said we had a bunch of murders and you prefer to hope for a natural explanation rather than a supernatural one. That's not the same as that's not the same as choosing what you believe.
Okay. Yeah.
You didn't make a choice. If a supernatural explanation came along and it was properly sourced with evidence and somebody could actually demonstrate the supernatural, wouldn't you accept it?
Yeah.
And since that's never happened, isn't it by default more reasonable that or more likely that we're going to find a natural explanation?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So you're just going with, I think the explanation is probably going to be more likely natural than supernatural. It's not about choosing what you believe. It's not. You don't know how those people died, and I don't. Although I will point out that we don't get to call them murders until there's actually a demonstration that it's a murder. But on that note, I got to let you go.